There we go. Okay, so everyone, thank you for joining us. Of course, this is our fourth and final night in our virtual Livestock Expo that is being hosted by Pueblo County. As always, many of you have been joining us on the other nights, but I am Miss Beth. I do work here in Pueblo County in the 4-H department, and tonight is our rabbit session with our wonderful leader, Miss Jessica Storm. So I'm going to pull up her PowerPoint presentation, and Miss Jessica, I will hand it off to you. And Miss Jessica, it looks like you're still muted as well, in case you want to fix that.
All right, there we go. All right, yeah, like Beth said, my name is Jessica Storm, and tonight I'm going to talk to you about the Market Rabbit Project. All right, so getting started, there are 3 different divisions in the 4-H Rabbit Project. The first division is Market. It consists of breeding your doe, raising the kits, selecting your meat pen, which consists of 3 rabbits and an alternate, and then providing proper nutrition for your meat pen for the best weight gain, showing the pen of 3 rabbits, and selling them at the 4-H livestock sale. The breeding consists of selecting a purebred rabbit, working with the rabbit so that it can be handled, conditioning the rabbit for the county fair by feeding it correctly and proper grooming, and then showing the rabbit at the county fair. And then the companion is a fairly new section in our county fair. We've been doing it about 3 years, and it consists of any mixed breed rabbit, and then also working with the rabbit so that it can be handled, conditioning the rabbit for the county fair by feeding it correctly, proper grooming, and then showing the rabbit at the county fair. So here are some good resources. Helped me out a bunch when I first started. So any breed information that you're going to need, you should be able to find on the American Rabbit Breeders Association, also known as ARBA or ARBA. They have every single breed that is recognized by ARBA and all the info as in weights that the rabbit needs to be at, minimum and maximum, the different varieties of the rabbit. And then for equipment, All Things Bunny is a great place to find show equipment. She has carriers, she has waters, feeders, pretty much anything that you could possibly want. Brushes specified for bunnies. KW cages more leans toward the hutches, stacker cages, and carrying cages, but they also do have some feeders and waters. And then bass equipment is another great one. Bass I've only been able to find online, but All Things Bunny and KW cages I have occasionally run into at shows. So if there's an ARBA show nearby and you head there, All Things Bunny and KW cages could possibly be there. It saves on shipping. And then food in our area, Pueblo, Big R and Tractor Supply are the main places to find that food. There are a few private people that sell different foods, but Big R and Tractor Supply have a great selection of different breeds and different proteins. So most common breeds used, and they're actually pictured below as well. So the first one pictured is the New Zealand.
Hey, Jessica, this is Aaron's new rabbit.
Oh,
Bobby. So he, as you can see already, he looks much better than when we had last year.
Yeah, no, looks great. Looks great. Yeah. So that one pictured is a Californian. So the New Zealand is.
Okay, here you go.
New Zealand is definitely the most common used for market just because they are pure white, which makes it very easy to find 3 that are alike in both type and color because they pretty much come in white. New Zealand's do come in a couple other varieties. They come in broken, blue, black, and red, but the white is definitely the most common type to find. The second pictured is the Californian, which April showed us hers. Californians are very similar to New Zealand's in body type. They just come in those black points. Both breeds have red eyes, which some people are turned off by, but they make an excellent market rabbit. The third, very good selection and pretty comparable to New Zealand and Californian is the silver fox. That's the next one pictured. Again, easier to find 3 that look alike as they only come in that silver fox color and have great meat type. The third that is, or fourth that is kind of making a comeback around here is the American. Now they're a semi-arched breed, which is the way that that rabbit is posed there. Still can be competitive, but definitely need a very good stock in Americans to be competitive with the New Zealands and Californians and silver foxes. But that is a good alternate, and they have good weight gain along with the other three. So equipment, something that you should definitely have starting off with is a cage for your doe for sure. Buck, if you have one, you can outsource that breeding in Pueblo County. You can own the doe and outsource the buck, so you don't technically have to own the buck. But if you're going to be doing this for a couple years, it's just a good idea to get a buck. So cages for the buck and the doe. You definitely want weaning cages for the babies that you will be having. Make sure that you have those available so that when you need to wean, those are available and ready. The feeders, there's two different kinds. Most commonly seen is the J or the croc. And I have pictures of those in the next slide, so I'll show you those. But I usually use the J feeder, and that's just kind of what I prefer, but the croc works as well. The waters, again, there's a bottle or a croc. Bottles are great in the summertime. I usually use the croc all year round, but the croc definitely in the wintertime, as they just take longer to freeze. The bottles, that little ball at the end freezes very quickly, and your rabbit can't get a drink as long as if you have a croc in the pen. And then feed, definitely start off with, of course. For the market rabbit, I strongly suggest owning a scale. You'll need to keep weighing your meat pens as soon as you start weaning them, even at probably around 4 weeks. Start weaning those and getting an idea of who's gaining the same, so that you can start picking out your meat pens. A scale is great to have, even if you're in breeding, to check, make sure your breeding rabbit is also within those minimum and maximum weights. But definitely for market, I strongly suggest getting a scale. So here are some of the equipment that I talked about earlier. That first hutch is a great example if you have an outdoor rabbitry of a type of hutch. I have a few like this. They're great in winter, great in summer. You can hang a towel down in front of those and spray the towel off, helps keep them cool. But that's a great example of a very sturdy hutch that works great. Second one, of course, is a water bottle. Great in the summertime, like I said. The next three pictures are different crocs that you can get. The first one, I know you can find at Tractor Supply and Big R. They're great because they clip on to the cage, because if your rabbits are anything like my rabbits, they like to play with the crocs, and they throw them around and spill the food and spill the water. That's not something you want. So the next two crocs clip to the cage. And then the next one I know you can find at All Things Bunny, and she is also online, so you can order those from her. And then the one below is that ceramic croc. That's a good, and then second line in the middle is that J feeder. Those are the ones I usually use, just because you can either put a lot of food in them or a little food in them, and it sifts the food out so you don't have a whole bunch of dust in the bottom of the bowls. And then that last thing pictured is a scale. I have one very similar to it, found it on Amazon, and it works great. You want one that at least goes up to 20 pounds. I don't think anybody will have a breed. The Flemish are the only thing that get bigger than that. So one that at least goes up to 20 pounds and measures in ounces is also great. So a little bit about breeding your doe and selecting your meat pen. Knowing your doe's gestation, which is 29 to 31 days. You want to breed for that 29-day mark, just because if you breed for the 31, because if your doe hasn't been 29, your mini pen could be a little young, so you just want to breed for that 31 days. There's two different types of nest boxes most commonly used, either a wood one or a metal. Again, the metal you can find at Tractor Supply, Big R, online. I prefer the wood just because I am an outdoor rabbitry, and I think it keeps the babies warmer. The metals are easier to keep sanitized. So that's just kind of preference there. Bedding, I prefer straw. Some people do use shavings, but I found it's easier to get into the kit's eyes, and I have more issues with shavings, so I prefer straw. Be careful of handling the kits, baby rabbits. If they're too young, your doe can get very territorial, and you don't want her to get your scent and all kinds of things. She could quit taking care of them. So usually about 2 to 3 weeks is when I really start handling my kits. When they start kind of jumping out of the box themselves and opening their eyes, they're pretty safe to handle. So selecting your meat pen, the first thing you want to do is check for DQs. That's anything in your breed that would cause a DQ. So on New Zealand, it would be a black toenail or a black spot anywhere. that's the first thing. You want to go through your babies and check for any DQs, check their teeth, check anything that could possibly DQ in your breed. Then once you get that done, then the pen needs to be as close to looks and weight as possible. And that is your main goal. If you start with good stock, shouldn't be too hard. You do want to make sure that your breed does conform to the standard, which is where the ARBA comes into. But if you start with fairly decent stock, then your next two goals is definitely weight and looks, as in markings. And then for the Pueblo County Fair, the minimum weight is 3.5 pounds and max weight is 5.5 pounds. And you want them as close to that 5.5 without going over. It's kind of Price is Right rules there. So 5.5 without going over would be your definitely main goal. Rules and dates are extremely important in any 4-H activity, but especially in any of your markets, and same goes for market rabbit. So the meat pen age cannot be over 10 weeks. So maximum is 10 weeks. And again, Price is Right rules. You want them as close to that 10 weeks as possible. They're just more competitive. And they show better if they're as close to 9.5 weeks. If you can get 9.5 weeks to 10 weeks is great. For Pueblo County Fair, you must also do showmanship. I know it's not that way in other counties, but even if you're just in market, you must also do showmanship. Must complete the record book to participate in next year's county fair. So say you breed your doe, she doesn't take, you end up not being able to show a meat pen, you must still complete that county fair and you must still bring a rabbit and do showmanship. You can put it on the table as in for the breed show, or you cannot, that is your choice, but you must do showmanship and you must complete your record book. So definitely know the doe owned by date, know your breed date. So I would figure that out now. So take the 10 weeks, take the 29 to 31 days, find what date you need to breed your doe to make sure that they are not over 10 weeks on the day of your county fair. Your weigh-in date usually is about a month before county fair for most counties. And then of course, your county fair date. Here are some links that are very helpful. That is a showmanship, ARBA showmanship page, because market as well as breeding has to do showmanship. You can get on that link. It'll take you directly to the showmanship page, which tells you what parts of the rabbit you have to show, and then the terms that you need to say while showing that piece. Say I'm showing the ear of the rabbit. What would I be looking for? Mites, make sure it's clean, look for the tattoo, that type of thing. So not only do you want to show the parts, but you want to say the terms as well. And then that second link is just ARBA to the different breeds of rabbits. Does anybody have any questions?
Okay, so we are going to stop screen sharing. So if you have any questions that may have popped into your mind while Miss Jessica was presenting, you're more than welcome to either unmute yourself and ask her, or you can type in the chat. Either one is fine. It just depends on what you're more comfortable with. Looks like we have some people thinking about some questions. So while they're thinking about their questions, Miss Jessica, I know a lot of youth in a lot of different counties have been worried about that virus with their rabbits. So maybe can you talk about that a little bit? Like maybe talk about some biosecurity measures they should be thinking of to keep their rabbits safe and healthy during all of that.
Sure, definitely, yeah. So RHDV2 popped up last spring. We've had a couple of cases in Fremont County, a couple of cases east, and quite a few in El Paso County. So it's rabbit I was actually trying to say that name, hemorrhagic disease. And it's fatal in rabbits. It's very quick, very deadly, and most likely it'll take out, they've been saying about 75% of your herd. So definitely something that you want to stay away from. Yeah, so we haven't been to a single rabbit show at all last year because of RHDV2. And then some biosecurity measures, you want to be very careful bringing in new rabbits. If you could not bring in new rabbits, that's probably best at the moment. Now we haven't had a case very close lately, but definitely that quarantine is very important. I would do at least a 60-day quarantine as far if you have even a friend to leave the rabbit at, But as far as you could possibly get to quarantine that rabbit, foot washes people are doing very important. You can wash your feet before you walk into your rabbitry. Keeping wild rabbits out, if that is at all possible. Putting a fence around your rabbitry if you have an outdoor rabbitry. At one point, they were suggesting even bringing your rabbits inside. For a lot of us, that's just not an option. If you have 50 rabbits, of course they can't be all in the house, so that's not an option. But if you have 1 or 2 pet rabbits that are living outside, you could bring them in, especially during the summers when it seems to rear up more as the wild rabbits became more active. So during the summertime, yeah, just definitely be more cautious. So yeah, quarantining any new stock, and just being very careful with the equipment. If you bring new equipment in, sanitize a bleach solution.
Okay, and then I do see there's a couple things in the chat. So the first one about the links, we will make sure you have access to the PowerPoints and these recorded sessions next week. So you will be able to get these from your extension agent. So they will have those and they will be on the State 4-H website as well. So don't worry if you couldn't see them tonight or couldn't copy them down fast enough. You will be able to get that same information next week as well. There was another additional question in the chat, Ms. Jessica, that asked, what do you think of the vaccine in lieu of the rabbit virus specifically?
Yeah, so I've talked to a lot of different rabbitries. I've been kind of networking with breeders. Most people are going ahead and going to do it. If it is something that you can do, I would say go ahead and do it. The vaccine isn't new. It's been around for quite a while. Not in America, but it has been in Europe for quite a while. They've been dealing with RHPV for a while. So yeah, if especially if you have 1 or 2 rabbits, I would say by all means go ahead and vaccinate. If you have a bigger herd and you are financially able, yeah, I'm saying go ahead and vaccinate. I've been talking to my vet. He doesn't think it's something that's going to come up and leave again. He thinks it's kind of here to stay. So to protect those rabbits, yeah, if you have an option, go ahead and do it.
Okay. I see we have a question of, do you know where they will do the vaccine? Yes, for some of you, you may have heard that there is a vaccination clinic if you're near Fremont County. So that is open. I know some of you are kind of spread out across the state, so you can always ask your extension agent if they're hosting a vaccination clinic that's closer to you, because I know a couple different counties are doing them in different spots. For those of you in Pueblo, you will be getting information tomorrow through your email about a vaccination clinic that's very close to us and how you can get signed up to go do that and how much it'll be and all those good questions. So if you do want to get your vaccines for your rabbits, make sure you're talking with your club leader. Have them ask your extension agent if you don't know who they are, and they can get you that information. We have time for a couple more questions. Does anyone else have a burning question? You can ask her about feed, handling, anything like that. She's extremely knowledgeable. So if you have questions, now would be the time.
I got my first rabbit when I was 5 years old, and raised him up through clover buds, showed him clover buds a couple of years, and then started actively raising rabbits when I turned 11.
So just around most of your ages. So there's always a good time to start. You all will be very great rabbit showers by the end of this evening. Really quick, one more question for you, Miss Jessica. So when you kind of talked about like handling your rabbits, things like that. So can you kind of give the youth an idea of how often they should be handling the rabbits, trying to get them used to posing, things like that before they go to show them at their county fair?
Sure, yeah. If you could even do it a couple of times a week, you would notice a big difference in your rabbits. Rabbits have a very short attention span and they get stressed very easily. So I wouldn't do more than 10 to 15 minutes, especially if it's hot. If you could do it, definitely do not do it in the heat of the day. Take a time early in the morning, or later in the evening, or in the house if you're able to bring that rabbit in the house in air conditioning. But yeah, a couple times a week, picking the rabbit up, carrying it, even car rides if you're able to. Some rabbits will stress the very first couple of times you take them places. The more often you're able to take them somewhere, if it's a safe space for them, the less they'll stress and the better they'll show at the show, because they're just stressed.
Perfect. Thank you, Miss Jessica. Does anyone else have any other questions before we move on to our next section of the evening? I know there's a question. Okay, we have a couple more. So one of them is, can Rex rabbits be used in meat pens, is the question.
Yes, Rex rabbits can be used in a meat pen. I haven't been able to really find great Rex rabbit breeders around here that kind of still strive for that meat pen type. But yes, they can. If you can find a solid, definitely helps. Your broken Rexes, a lot of times it's really hard to match up those markings. But if you can find the white Rexes or the black Rexes or the other kind of solid color, they come in a couple of different, the otters, I know they come in otter. But yes, Rex rabbits can definitely be used for market. They might not gain quite as well, so you definitely have to make sure that you help them with a higher protein food to make sure that they make that 3.5 weight.
Perfect, thank you. We have two more and we will get to them because I do want everyone to get their questions answered. That's why we're doing this. For your Expo, your passport word, we will do that more towards the end. So you're gonna have to hold on that for now. Our next question is, do you have any tricks to get a bunny pregnant? Maybe if there's like a special bedding or if they need a towel over their crate. I'm not quite sure if you have any tips and tricks to make that a successful breeding.
So in the show world, there is something that goes around. I don't know if it's scientifically proven, but a car ride. A lot of times they say if you take your rabbit in a car and bring it back and try to breed the next day, a lot of times the doe is more receptive, and it kind of depends on whether it's the doe not wanting to do her job or the buck not wanting to do his job. Weight provides a huge issue. Make sure your rabbits are the proper weight. If they're overweight, they aren't going to want to breed. A lot of people say once you bring them back from a show, great time to breed them, which again is mostly because of the car ride. Some people do say moon phases. I've never actually tried it, but they say a full moon. So, hey man, I mean, if you're really trying to get that doe bred, anything is, open for anything. But I would definitely check your food, check the weight of the doe, take it for a car ride, and do it when, again, it's not hot right now. And sometimes this time of year, it's not springtime. Rabbits really do breed better in the springtime. So I don't usually start breeding. I'll probably start breeding beginning of March or beginning to middle of March is when I'll start to try to breed my does. I don't usually try it this time just because they're not real receptive to it. But yeah, the car ride, check the weight of your doe, and then time of year does provide or be a factor.
Perfect, thank you. And then of course, our last question we'll do for right now is, can you raise your rabbits in a colony is our last question.
So you can, depending on, you just really got to make sure that they get along. In colonies, I've had more issues with rabbit fighting, which can provide ear nicks. It can, do torn ears. It can provide, and sometimes deaths. But if all your rabbits get along and you're real careful with how you do it, yeah, I do know some breeders that do raise all their rabbits in a colony. It's a little bit maybe harder to get a show coat on the rabbit because depending on whether your colony's on the ground or in a cage, that kind of makes a difference. Most of the colonies I know, they do raise them on the ground, which can be kind of, again, hard to get a good show coat on that rabbit because they're always in the dirt. So, but yes, if that's your option, you can raise them in a colony.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so now special treat for you all. I know Miss Jessica is going to flip her camera around and we're going to see some live rabbits that she has. She has quite a variety and she's going to show you how to start holding your rabbits, posing them, things like that. So you kind of can see what you need to be practicing when your rabbits are of age. So make sure you're watching carefully and watching that screen so that you can see how she's holding. And if you have questions or you need her to like slow it down or maybe get the rabbit closer to the camera, just you can unmute and ask for that. You can also type in the chat as well. So she's getting set up there. Nice rabbit arch. So we'll hand it back over to Miss Jessica.
All right, and my sister Amanda here is being my hands. She is co-rabbit superintendent. She's been in it longer than I have, and actually did market for a lot of years. So this first rabbit she's working with is a New Zealand. He is a senior buck, and he would be commercial type. Commercial type is a lot like compact, except that they call them commercial when you use them for meat, or can use them for meat. So New Zealand, and she's showing you how to do compact. What you want to do is make sure his front feet are below his eyes, and he moves, and she's going to put him back. His back feet are under his hips, and then she's going to pull out the tail. So that's a proper pose of a New Zealand rabbit. If you can, it's nice to let go of his head he might not stay, and he's not going to. So that's something, again, you practice. So when you take pictures or when you're posing for showmanship, you are definitely going to have to let go of that rabbit. He is my breeding rabbit, so again, he doesn't get handled a whole lot. There you go. She's going to move his feet. Make sure he's totally correct under himself. You want to make sure all 4 feet are flat on the ground. He is. There we go. Commercial type. He's going to stay this time. All right. The next rabbit she's going to bring out. And if anybody has any questions, go ahead and let me know. So this next breed, most rabbits are commercial types. So that would be how you pose them. But the American that we did mention is called semi-arched. I don't have an American, but this guy is a giant chinchilla. He is one of the 3rd biggest breeder rabbits you can own. So you want that arch, but you want it farther back. So she's going to make sure that he stays kind of flat from his neck. And then all of a sudden that arch will begin and he'll have a nice arch type. There we go. And he's young. So he's like, no, I'm good. Thanks. There we go. You can see how he stays flat, and then all of a sudden he goes into that nice arch. So that's a nice representation of a semi-arched breed. Good boy. All right, so those are your 2 most common meat types. And trying to think back, maybe besides like a French slop, I think even Rex are technically considered commercial, but we're going to pull out a couple other breeds and kind of show you. So this is a mini lop. And she's basically like the New Zealand, but they call it compact rather than commercial because you do not use mini lops for meat. They do not get big enough. Again, she's going to make sure that her back feet are under her hips, her front feet are under her eyes. Keeps a hand on the head to make sure she's all set. Make sure she has that nice rounded body type and she's shedding. Make sure the tail's there. There you go. She's more interested in seeing what Amanda's doing. No. And again, practice with your rabbits because during showmanship, you will need to step back from the table and your rabbit needs to hold that pose. All right, so that's compact. Now I'll show you the last one that we have. Now this last breed is kind of not rare, but is unique in that it is the only breed. It's a Himalayan, and it's the only breed that you show cylindrically. So instead of scrunching or trying to get that nice compact, you actually want to get it nice and stretched out. And he's not going to help her out any. And you actually roll them. You stretch them out a little bit and you roll. The Himalayan, the longer the rabbit, the better the specimen.
And while he's getting into position, there is a question in the chat. They ask, how long does the rabbit need to hold its arch? So how often, like how long do they need to hold that position, would you say, when they're trying to show their rabbits?
So for showmanship, it would be nice if they could hold it for 5 to 10 seconds, would be great. But the longer they hold that, the better it looks. Some rabbits are just more apt to do it. Now this is a young Himalayan, but usually Himalayans are very apt to hold that pose. So yeah, if they could hold it to 5 to 10 seconds would be great. There we go. So she stretched them all out. With him, you want to make sure that their back feet are completely on the ground, which they are. His front feet, again, under his eyes. Make sure his tail is out. Usually Himalayans will hold that for a very long time, which is why they're great for beginners. They do have the red eyes, which I knew kind of throw some people off, but they're one of the sweetest breeds of rabbits. So he's the last type we brought. The only type we don't have is called the full arched. They are the Belgian hares, the tans, giant checkered giants, and the Rylanders. I don't know if anybody's ever seen a jackrabbit. but they look a lot like those. They look like tame jackrabbits, and you can look up pictures, but they are considered the full arched, and most of them you don't even pose. You set on the table and they run for the judge. The judge actually judges them on how well they move rather than how well they're posed, except for the Belgian. The Belgian hare is a posed rabbit. That's the only breed we don't have. And then the only thing else we're going to show you, this pertains to showmanship. And it's another thing besides the pose that really needs to be worked on with rabbits is the flip. A lot of the pieces, parts and types of the rabbit are shown on its back. So she's going to position so the head is close to her, grab the ears and the scruff, use her other hand to help bring the butt of the rabbit toward her. And then if you can kind of show the judge, the more that the rabbit's used to you, see how she can kind of bring it out. And then you would show the rabbit's teeth, the sex, the toenails, the hocks, front legs, body of the rabbit, and all that pertains to showmanship. So if you can, Amanda's going to show it to us one more time. You can work on the pose and the flip. It comes a long ways to having a great showmanship rabbit. She positions the head toward her. You grab the head, grab the scruff, flip. You can kind of brace him against that arm that's holding, and you don't want to let go of the ears and the scruff. And it doesn't hurt the rabbit. You don't have to grab it hard. And it should stay like that until you're ready to release and back up. All right, go. Again, the size of the rabbit to the size of your 4-H'er really helps. If you have an 8-year-old, you probably want to stay away from the giant breeds just because it's really hard for them to flip a giant rabbit. It can be done, and I've seen it done. But for your first year or even second or third, maybe starting with a smaller rabbit, the Himalayans are great. The New Zealand or mini lops are great. Dutch can be good. Mini Rex, any of your medium to small type rabbits. So, anybody have any questions on any of that? So his type is cylindrical. The mini lop was compact. The giant chin was semi-arched, and the New Zealand is commercial. And she will hold them like a taco.
Miss Jessica, we appreciate it. So everyone, hopefully you got to see all that. Make sure you're working on that with your rabbits at home, of course, when they're the right age. So as she's putting her rabbits back, we're going to go ahead and transition into the later part of our evening. So with that, I know most of you are keen on getting that passport word. So of course, we're going to show you that so that you have that ready to go. So on your fillable passport, I'm going to show you the PDF version of it, and I'll show you what it looks like on the word one as well. So here's our rabbit guy on our passport. It asks, what is the hardest movement with rabbits when doing show poses? And as you saw, Miss Jessica said one of the big key pieces to get them comfortable with is called the flip. So that's what you would write here on your PDF. If you're doing the Word document, you just go down to where you see the rabbit picture and you would just write the flip as well. So don't worry about this trivia piece. That's for tomorrow. I just showed you what it's like to put in a score there. So don't worry about this until tomorrow. You should be able to click on that and it'll take you to a game that you'll play tomorrow by yourself. We won't do it in a group setting like we will tonight. So it looks like Alexis has a question. So Alexis, if you want to unmute and ask your question, you can also type it in the chat as well if you don't want to unmute.
Can you type in the chat what the other ones were? I lost my slip of paper that said what all the other ones were.
Sure. So I will only give you guys one of them because hopefully you attended. I know most of you attended the other ones, but if you didn't, I can't give you away all of them. So I will give you the one we did last night, which was our poultry one. So on your document where you see the chicken picture, that's where you would write what I'm going to type in the chat. So it asked what is the type of feed you want to use. And last night's answer was high protein. So I did type that in the chat in case you just want to like copy that and paste it. You can go ahead and do that. So remember, you want to send those to me tomorrow after you play your trivia game by yourself. So it'll look a little different when you play it by yourself versus when we play it as a group. So with that, we're going to go ahead and transition our game. If you're new to our Expo this evening, the way it's going to work is I'm going to show you the game. The questions will show up on your screen along with answers to it. And then you'll type in the chat which answer you think is correct to the question. And Miss Jessica here is to help you while we play our game. There's going to be music, high fives. It's a grand time. So we're going to go ahead and start that. So it will be loud at first, but it does get quieter as we continue on. So let me get that set up and we will be set to play our game this evening. So thank you all for coming and joining us and playing our Market Rabbit Trivia this evening. So here you can see your first question, okay, which is what are the 3 different divisions in the 4-H Rabbit Project? So then it shows you the different answers that you can pick from. And what you'll do is you'll have about a minute. I play some background music and you can type in the chat A, B, C, or D, whichever one you think is correct, you'll type that in the chat while our time is running. At the end of that, I'll pick the answer that the majority has voted for, and we'll see if you all are right or not. So you do have an opportunity to win points tonight. So with that, we're gonna start our lovely background music, and you can start typing in the chat. And even if you're not 100% sure and you don't know for sure what the answer might be, you're always welcome to just give it a go. There's never a wrong answer when we do this. There's always a possibility to get it right. So we're going to have about another 30 seconds on our clock here while we give everyone the opportunity to get their answers in. All right, so that is our time for our first question here. Looks like everyone was kind of thinking A, market, breeding, and companion. Correct, so everyone gets 100 points. Round of applause. Awesome start to our evening tonight. All right, so our next question is, what website is a good place to find information on your rabbit's breed? So remember, Miss Jessica did mention this a couple different times. She gave you the abbreviation of it. So think about it and type in what you think is the right one. And while you're all typing, if you're curious about what music you're hearing and playing in the background, that is our Jeopardy theme music. Jeopardy is a great trivia TV show. If you're ever curious on checking that out, it's a great one that quizzes you about everything around the world, art, history, music, science, so much more. So if you're ever curious about really testing your knowledge about other things outside of 4-H, that is a great game show to watch and kind of play with your family as you watch it. And it is available on Netflix, fun fact, and you can even access it on Hulu. So if you have either one of those, you can always check that out. So we have about another 30 seconds here on our clock. Wow, it looks like a couple more people are typing. Miss Jessica, can you kind of tell us, I know you mentioned like the showmanship worksheet, if they go on, without telling them the answer, if they go on the right website, what else can they expect to find on there? Are there any other tip sheets they should look for, things like that?
Yeah, so definitely any information you could possibly find on your breed. They have places if you're interested in going to a show, a sanctioned show. They usually have all the shows listed there for your state. So you go to Colorado and then find your area. So if you're interested in ever going to a show, they usually have news in the rabbit world. So I know they have some links about the RHDB2. It's just a real good place. You can pretty much find anything you want, as well as links to different breed clubs. If you're interested in joining a breed club, say you're super interested in mini lops, they have a link to that. You can get interested in contact with more people that own mini lops.
Perfect, thank you. And with that, our time is up. It does look like the majority of everyone has said B. We'll give that one a go. And that is correct. So of course, another 100 points. And a big old heart emoji, because you guys are absolutely on fire tonight. All right, rolling along. So we asked you what website, you all got it right. So it's the ARBA. What does that stand for? Miss Jessica did give us that definition. So read these carefully because some of them might be a little tricky. So even if you aren't 100% sure, give it a go, because of course the whole point of this game is to kind of test your knowledge and see what you remember. So there's never truly a wrong answer, just great efforts from our 4-H members this evening. And as Miss Jessica mentioned, that website is a great resource to have, good one to check out when you have time, especially if you're new to the rabbit project and maybe it's not a big project in your 4-H in your county. So something to think about. We have about another 30 seconds. So if you haven't had a chance to type in, make sure you are picking A, B, C, or D. All right, and that is our time for this question. Let's see if my computer will let me pick it up. Okay. Looks like people are kind of thinking A. Let's give that one a go. Correct. So I know that one was a little tricky, but you all passed with flying. Awesome job. All right. Our next question. Which one of the most common breeds is used for the Market Rabbit Project? She did kind of give you all that answer as well when she talked about the different breeds. It was on that slide with the photos. So remember, which one did she say out of these was kind of the best one? And that photo there, I know it's a little sideways, but that photo is some of our rabbits from our last year county fair for Pueblo. So we did have a youth member grow some rabbits there and have them bred and ready to be weighed. So that's what it, of course, looks like when your rabbits are waiting and ready to get weighed in the early stages of the year, when it's nice and warm and we don't have any more snow. So we have about another 30 seconds and just give it a shot. Even if it's in the dark, it's okay. All right, that is our time there. Let me see here. Looks like people are thinking A, our New Zealand. Of course, you all are absolutely on. So of course, big round of applause, big heart, because you all are absolutely killing it. So what piece of equipment is shown in the photo? So remember when she was talking about equipment and she gave you a couple different photos and talked about things you need to really make sure your rabbits are doing well and they're healthy. She definitely talked about this for sure. So Miss Jessica, while they're throwing their answers in the chat, should they really, can they go to most farm stores and probably find things that would work for their rabbits? Like you talked about the waters and everything, or most big like agriculture-based stores, are they gonna have that where they could find it?
Yeah, definitely. Yep. I think pretty much anything that I've been into, like I said, Tractor Supply, Big R, Murdoch's, any of those I've seen, the J feeders, the Crocs. So yeah.
Perfect. Okay. And if they don't, if maybe they only have like a Walmart and there's a pet section in there, would they be able, like if there's like a rabbit waterer, things like that, would that be something that might work as well that would be safe enough for them to use?
Yeah, I've seen the water bottles at Walmart. Some of the dishes might not stand up to rabbits chewing on them. I've noticed they're a little bit softer plastic. So just kind of keep aware of that. They might not last as long. But yeah, Walmart, and even sometimes your Dollar Trees, I've noticed have some of the pet dishes. And if you can find them that are the ceramic ones or the harder plastic, those work just as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you. So remember, if you're not sure where to get things, you have a couple different stores you can always check out. So with that, our time has come up. It looks like everyone's thinking D, the J feeder. And of course, that is absolutely correct. So round of applause. And we're on to our next question. So this one is, how long is a doe's gestation? So remember, that's the female, and she did give you that time frame. She did talk about why that is important, and maybe as they're typing that answer, Miss Jessica, if you don't mind reminding them why that amount of length of time is just so important to these rabbits.
Yeah, so knowing that length of time will give you your date that you need to breed your doe for that correct age of 8.
So remember, dates and length of time is really, really important when you're working with these smaller animals and really any animal project. So remember, make sure you're talking with your club leader, with your project leader, if you're not from Pueblo, to make sure you know when you should be getting your rabbits, breeding them, all that good information. Your club leader and your project leader would really be able to help you with all of that. So we have about another 10 seconds. If you haven't had an opportunity to type in yet, you still have a smidge of time. All right, so that is our time for that one. And it looks like most people are thinking D again, that 29 to 31 days. Let's give that one a go. Spot on. You all must be taking notes tonight. Absolutely killing it. You all have not got one wrong yet. When selecting a meat pen, how many rabbits do you need? So remember, she did talk about how many you need, because that usually is a rule. And we may have some youth who might go to the state fair. So Miss Jessica, is that kind of the same thing? Like, should they still continue to practice with those state fair rabbits, everything like that? Is there anything they would need to change from county fair to state fair that you would like to share with them?
No, the same rules that apply for our county fair apply to state fair. You need that same amount in your pen, and the rabbits have to be that same age. So if you're going to do state, you would probably have to have 2 does or 3 to be able to get the meat pens, because you'd need to breed a little bit before county fair for your state fair. But yes, those same rules apply, same age and same amount of rabbits.
Perfect.
Same weight as well.
So really good information there from Miss Jessica. So remember, if you're thinking about doing state fair as well as your county fair, you're going to want to know all of that, so you kind of can plan when you need to have your animals by. So we do have about another 10 seconds on our clock here. And again, even if you're not 100% sure on your answer, just give it a go, because you might just get it right. All right, and that is our time on that question. Let's see, it looks like most people are saying B. We even have like a basic rabbit emoji in the chat. You all are awesome. Let's give that one a go. All right, another straight answer. Oh. Gotta tell you guys are doing awesome. Most other trivia nights, they've got one question wrong, but you all have been on fire tonight. So remember, our question tonight is, what is the maximum age for a meat pen? So remember, she did also give you this answer as well, and it seems like most of you were taking notes. So give that one a thought or two. And Miss Jessica, if you can, without giving the answer away, why is there like a maximum age for these rabbits? Why would they not want to be older than they're supposed to be, if you don't mind sharing that with us?
Sure, yeah. So if you were actually going to be raising rabbits for meat, that is the optimal age to go ahead and process your rabbits for the food that you've put in them, to get the optimal weight and a fryer is what they call them. So yeah, so in the big plants, the people that actually raise these rabbits commercially. So commercially, that is the most optimal time to process your rabbits.
Perfect. And it looks like everyone has answered. It looks like it is a fire round with that, because it sounds like your information kind of helped them pick their answer. So they're saying A, about 10 weeks. That is correct. So 800 points, round of applause. Our next one is, what is a baby rabbit called? So this little guy here, what is he called? Because remember, all baby animals usually are called something specific. So think about that. She talked about how you don't want to handle them too young, because it could make the doe, their mother, not want to take care of them if they're super young, things like that. You know, she talked about make sure their eyes are open at that point where they're jumping out on their own is kind of when you would want to start handling them. So awesome tips from Miss Jessica tonight. And of course, if you always have more questions, you can always ask for help in your county. All right, everyone is like on fire tonight. Looks like they are just ready to go. So let's see. Most of our answers are looking like most people are thinking A. We have one vote for C. So we'll give A first, since that one is kind of what people are thinking. That is correct. It is Kit. So congratulations there. All right. So what is your main goal when selecting a meat pen? So remember, think about that. She kind of talked about that when she was posing the different rabbits, and she showed you those photos and kind of explained what your goal is, especially when you're picking the different breeds. She definitely gave you some good information when she was presenting on all of that. And I know some of these might be kind of similar, but we're looking for the best answer. And we have about another 10 seconds on our clock here. So make sure you're getting your answers in. Even if it's just an educated guess, that's always okay. All right, and that is our time on that question. I can get my music to pause for me here. Let's see what everyone is thinking. It looks like D. Most people are thinking D. Let's give that one a go, which is choosing 3 rabbits that are close or at least same as each other in both appearance. Absolutely spot on. Round of applause. And of course, our big hearts. You all have absolutely done a stellar job tonight. 1,000 points because you all got every question absolutely right. So of course, give yourself a big round of applause, a pat on the back, because you all did a fantastic job. All right, with that, we are going to do one last thing. And of course, you can start asking questions if you have them. If a couple more came up in your mind while we were doing that, you can always unmute, or you can just type your question in the chat and Miss Jessica will be here to answer them. So really quick, we are also going to do, which if you've been on here other nights, you know we're gonna do this. We have a really short survey. It's only 3 questions, nice and easy. So really quick, just read through them. It's not a race. So if you will just read through that for me, click which question fits best for your situation. And then if you have other questions for Miss Jessica, you can certainly ask them. And while they're voting, Miss Jessica, do you have any last tips and tricks to share with them, or any last words?
I don't think so. I mean, these are great tips to get you started. If you are able to find a breeder in your area that raises the breed that you're interested in, they are a wealth of info. They can usually help you with, again, how to breed that certain breed. Some breeds are easier to get bred than others. Help you find other breeders so that you can, get the right type of stock, and if you need new stock. So yeah, definitely, if you're able to network with breeders, it's very helpful. Yeah, I guess that'd be my one tip. If you can find a breeder that you're interested in, you go ahead and do that.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Miss Jessica. I do see that there is a question in the chat. If I can put my email in there so that you all know who to send your passport packets to tomorrow, and I will put that in there. So while you all are still clicking on your votes there, I will type that in there. So once you have played that trivia game that you click on your passport, you'll send this to me at haysb@pueblocounty.us. Send that in and you'll get a 4-H goodie bag, which if you're here in Pueblo, I will bring that to you. If you live elsewhere in the state, that will be coming to you through the mail. So I will work with you to get your address so I can get it mailed to you. And of course, we will have awesome items like our squishy 4-H pigs. We have squishy 4-H cows and a lot of awesome 4-H swag that you're going to want to get your hands on. So with all of that said, if you all have voted and everything like that, you are more than welcome to go. Of course, we thank Miss Jessica for being on here with us tonight. And if you have any more questions, you're welcome to ask them. But if not, you're more than welcome to go. So thank you for joining. I hope you enjoyed our virtual Livestock Expo and have a great evening.